All right, take it away, Bobby.
Okay, hello group, all my friends that I depend upon to start my week with. I was so excited that I was jumping the gun. So Niels got me back in order, and just wanted to say that we're in good timing with our book. It seems like we're in sync with the nation with nature, because Charlotte's getting ready to go to the county fair. The weather is getting cooler. Kids are going back to school. The crickets. We're going to be telling you what the crickets are saying. And last week, Mrs. Arble, she was so concerned about Fern talking to the animals and then repeating what she heard that she went to see the doctor. And he said, I think animals can talk, but we're just too busy to listen to them. So that's a good lesson for all of us. And I think last week we even talked about how we can sense what animals are saying to us. And the last word that Charlotte wrote for Wilbert was radiant. And she got help from Templeton to write that word. So let's see what happens now. This is chapter 15, and it's called The Crickets. The crickets sang in the grasses. They sang the song of summer's ending, a sad, monotonous song. Summer is over and gone, over and gone, over and gone. Summer is dying, dying. The crickets felt it was their duty to warn everybody that summertime cannot last forever. Even on the most beautiful days in the whole year, the days when summer is changing into fall, the crickets spread the rumor of sadness and change. Everybody heard the song of the crickets. Avery and Fern Arble heard it as they walked the dusty road. They knew that school would soon begin again. The young geese heard it, and they knew they would never be little goslings again. Charlotte heard it and knew she hadn't much time left. Mrs. Zuckerman at work in the kitchen heard the crickets, and the sadness came over her too. Another summer gone, she sighed. Lovery at work building a crate for Wilbert heard the song, and he knew it was time to dig potatoes. Summer is over and gone, repeated the crickets. How many nights till frost, sang the crickets. Goodbye, summer, goodbye, goodbye. The sheep heard the crickets, and they felt so uneasy, they broke a hole in the pasture fence, and they wandered up into the field across the road. The gander discovered the hole and let his family through, and they walked to the orchard and ate the apples that were lying on the ground. A little maple tree in the swamp, heard the cricket, and it turned bright red. The little maple was so anxious. Wilbert was now the center of attraction on the farm. Good food and regular hours were showing results. Wilbert was a pig any man would be proud of. One day, more than 100 people came to stand at his yard and admire him. Charlotte had written the word radiant, and Wilbert really looked radiant as he stood in the golden sunlight. Ever since the spider had befriended him, he had done his best to live up to his reputation. When Charlotte's Web said, some pig, Wilbert had tried hard to look like some pig. When Charlotte's Web said, terrific, Wilbert had tried to look terrific. And now that the web said radiant, he did everything possible to make himself glow. It's not easy to look radiant, but Wilbert threw himself into it with a will. He would turn his head slightly and blink his long eyelashes, and then he would breathe deeply. And then, when his audience grew bored, he would spring into the air and do a backflip with a half twist. At this, the crowd would yell and cheer. How's that for a pig? Mr. Zuckerman would ask, well pleased with himself. That pig is radiant. Some of Wilbert's friends in the barn worried for fear all his attention would go to his head and make Wilbert stuck up, but it never did. Wilbert was modest. Fame did not spoil him. He still worried about some of what would happen in the future, as he could hardly believe a mere spider would be able to save his life. Sometimes at night, he would have a bad dream. He would dream that men were coming to get him with knives and guns, but that was only a dream. In the daytime, Wilbert usually felt happy and confident. No pig ever had truer friends, and he realized that friendship is one of the most satisfying things in the whole world. Even the song of the crickets did not make Wilbert too sad. He knew it was almost time for the county fair, and he was looking forward to the trip. If he could distinguish himself at the fair and maybe win some prize money, he was sure Zuckerman would let him live. Charlotte had worries of her own, but she kept quiet about them. One morning, Wilbert asked her about the fair. "You're going with me, aren't you, Charlotte?" he said. "Well, I don't know," replied Charlotte. "The fair comes at a bad time for me. I shall find it inconvenient to leave home, even for a few days." "Why?" asked Wilbert. "Oh, I just don't feel like leaving my web. Too much going on around here." "Please come with me," begged Wilbert. "I need you, Charlotte. I can't stand going to the fair without you. You just got to come." "No," said Charlotte. "I believe I'd better stay home and see if I can get some work done." "What kind of work?" asked Wilbert. "Egg laying," said Charlotte. "It's time I made an egg sack and filled it with eggs." "I didn't know you could lay eggs," said Wilbert in amazement. "Oh, sure," said the spider. "I'm versatile." "What does versatile mean? Full of eggs?" asked Wilbert. "Certainly not," said Charlotte. "Versatile means I can turn with ease from one thing to another. It means I don't have to limit my activities to spinning and trapping and stunts like that." "Why don't you come with me to the fairgrounds and lay your eggs there?" pleaded Wilbert. "It would be wonderful fun." Charlotte gave her web a twitch and moodily watched it sway. "I'm afraid not," she said. "You don't know the first thing about egg laying, Wilbert. I can't arrange my family duties to suit the management of the county fair. When I get ready to lay eggs, I have to lay eggs, fair or no fair. However, I don't want you to worry about it. You might lose weight. We'll leave it this way. I'll come to the fair if I possibly can." "Oh, good," said Wilbert. "I knew you wouldn't forsake me just when I need you the most." All that day, Wilbert lay inside, taking life easy in the straw. Charlotte rested and ate a grasshopper. She knew that she couldn't help Wilbert much longer. In a few days, she would have to drop everything and build the beautiful little sack that would hold her eggs. Chapter 16, Off to the Fair. The night before the county fair, everybody went to bed early. Fern and Avery were in bed by 8. Avery lay dreaming the Ferris wheel had stopped and he was in the top car. Fern lay dreaming that she was getting sick in the swings. Lovely was in bed by 8:30. He lay dreaming that he was throwing baseballs at a cloth cat and winning a genuine Navajo blanket. Mr. and Mrs. Zuckerman were in bed by 9. Mrs. Zuckerman lay dreaming about a deep freeze unit. Mr. Zuckerman lay dreaming about Wilbert. He dreamt that Wilbert had grown until he was 116 feet long and 92 feet high, and he had won all the prizes at the fair and was covered with blue ribbons and even had a blue ribbon tied to the end of his tail. And there's the dream. That is Mr. Zuckerman's dream of how big Wilbert was going to be. When morning came, everybody got up at daylight. The day was hot. Up the road at the Arbel's house, Fern lugged a pail of hot water to her room and took a sponge bath. And then she put on her prettiest dress because she knew she would see boys at the fair. Mrs. Arbel scrubbed the back of Avery's neck and wet his hair, parted it, and brushed it down hard till it stuck to the top of his head, all but about 6 hairs that stood straight up. Avery put on clean underwear, clean blue jeans, and a clean shirt. Mr. Arbel dressed, ate breakfast, and went out and polished his truck. He had offered to drive everybody to the fair, including Wilbert. Bright and early, Lovely put clean straw in Wilbert's crate and lifted it into the pig pen. The crate was green. In gold letters it said, "Zuckerman's famous pig." Charlotte had her web looking fine for the occasion. Wilbert ate his breakfast slowly. He tried to look radiant without getting food in his ears. In the kitchen, Mrs. Zuckerman suddenly made an announcement. "Homer," she said to her husband, "I'm going to give that pig a buttermilk bath." "A what?" said Mr. Zuckerman. "A buttermilk bath. My grandmother used to bathe her pig with buttermilk when it got dirty. I just remembered." "Wilbert's not dirty," said Mr. Zuckerman proudly. "He's filthy behind the ears," said Mrs. Zuckerman. "Every time Lovely slops him, the food runs down around the ears, and then it dries and forms a crust. He also has a smudge on one side where he lays in the manure." "He lays in clean straw," corrected Mr. Zuckerman. Well, he's dirty, and he's going to have a bath. Mr. Zuckerman sat down weakly and ate a donut. His wife went to the woodshed, and then she returned. When she got back, she wore rubber boots and an old raincoat, and she carried a bucket of buttermilk and a small wooden paddle. Edith, you're crazy, mumbled Zuckerman. But she paid no attention to him. Together they walked to the pig pen. Mrs. Zuckerman wasted no time. She climbed in the pen with Wilbert and went to work. Dipping her paddle in the buttermilk, she rubbed him all over. The geese gathered around to see the fun, and so did the sheep and the lambs. Even Templeton poked his head out cautiously to watch Wilbert get a buttermilk bath. Charlotte got so interested, she lowered herself on a dragline so she could see better. Wilbert stood still and closed his eyes. He could feel the buttermilk trickling down his sides. He opened his mouth and some buttermilk ran in. It was delicious. He felt radiant and happy. When Mrs. Zuckerman got through and rubbed him dry, he was the cleanest, prettiest pig you ever saw. He was pure white, pink around the ears and snout, and smooth as silk. The Zuckermans went up to change into their best clothes. Lovery went to shave and put on his plaid shirt and his purple necktie. The animals were left to themselves in the barn. The 7 goslings paraded around and around their mother. Please, 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 please take us to the fair, begged the gosling. Then all the 7 began teasing to go. Please, 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 please. And they made quite a racket. Children, snapped the goose, we're staying at home. Oh, Wilbert is going to the fair. Just then Charlotte interrupted. I shall go too, she said softly. I have decided to go with Wilbert. He may need me. We can't tell what may happen at the fairgrounds. Somebody's got to go along who knows how to write. And I think Templeton better come too. I might need somebody to run errands and do general work. I'm staying right here, grumbled the rat. I haven't the slightest interest in fairs. Well, it's because you've never been to one, remarked the old sheep. A fair is a rat's paradise. Everybody spills food at the fair. A rat can creep out late at night and have a feast. In the horse barn, you will find oats that the trotters and pacers have spilled. In the trampled grass of the infill, you will find old discarded lunch boxes containing the foul remains of peanut butter sandwiches, hard-boiled eggs, cracker crumbs, bits of donuts, and particles of cheese. In the hard-packed dirt of the midway, after the glaring lights are turned out and the people have gone home to bed, you will find a veritable treasure of popcorn fragments, frozen custard drippings, candied apples abandoned by tired children, sugar fluff crystals, salted almonds, popsicles, partially gnawed ice cream cones, and the wooden sticks of lollipops. Everywhere is loot for a rat, in tents and booths and haylofts. Why, a fair has enough disgusting leftover food to satisfy a whole army of rats. Templeton's eyes were blazing. Is this true? He asked. Is this appetizing yarn of yours true? I like high living, and what you say tempts me. It is true, said the old sheep. Go to the fair, Templeton. You will find the conditions at a fair will surpass your wildest dreams. Buckets with sour mash sticking to them, tin cans containing particles of tuna fish, greasy paper bags stuffed with rotten. Oh, that's enough. That's enough, cried Templeton. Don't tell me any more. I'm going. Good, said Charlotte, winking at the old sheep. Now then, there is no time to be lost. Wilbert would soon be put into the crate. Templeton and I must get into the crate right now and hide ourselves. The rat didn't waste a minute. He scampered over to the crate, crawled between the slats, and pulled straw up over him so he was hidden from sight. All right, said Charlotte, I'm next. She sailed into the air, let out a dragline, and dropped gently to the ground. And then she climbed the side of the crate and hid herself inside a knothole in the top board. The old sheep nodded. What a cargo, he said. That sign ought to say Zuckerman's famous pig and 2 stowaways. Look out. The people are coming, shouted the gunner. Cheese it, cheese it, cheese it, cheese it. The big truck with Mr. Arble at the wheel backed slowly down towards the barnyard. Lovery and Mr. Zuckerman walked alongside. Fern and Avery were standing in the body of the truck, hanging on to the sideboards. Listen to me, whispered the old sheep to Wilbert. When they open the crate and try to put you in, struggle. Don't go without a tussle. Pigs always resist when they're being loaded. If I struggle, I'll get dirty, said Wilbert. Never mind that. Do as I say. Struggle. If you were to walk into the crate without resisting, Zuckerman might think you were bewitched. He'd be scared to go to the fair. Templeton poked his head up through the straw. Struggle if you must, he said, but kindly remember, I'm hiding down here in this crate, and I don't want to be stepped on, kicked in the face, or plummeted, or crushed in any way, squashed or buffeted about, bruised or lacerated or scarred or biffed. Just watch what you're doing, Mr. Radiant, when they get you shoved in. Oh, be quiet, Templeton, said the sheep. Pull in your head, they're coming. Look radiant, Wilbert. Lay low, Charlotte. Tuck it up, geese. The truck backed slowly to the pig pen and stopped. Mr. Arble cut the motor, got out, walked around to the rear, and lowered the tailgate. The geese cheered. Mrs. Arble got out of the truck. Fern and Avery jumped to the ground. Mrs. Zuckerman came walking down from the house. Everybody lined up at the fence and stood for a moment admiring Wilbert and the beautiful green crate. Nobody realized the crate already contained a rat and a spider. That's some pig, said Mrs. Arble. He's terrific, said Lovely. He's very radiant, said Fern, remembering the day he was born. Well, said Mrs. Zuckerman, he's clean anyway. The buttermilk certainly helped. Mr. Arble studied Wilbert carefully. Yes, he's a wonderful pig, he said. Hard to believe that he was the runt of the litter. You'll get some extra good ham and bacon, Homer, when it comes time to kill that pig. Wilbert heard these words and his heart almost stopped. I think I'm going to faint, he whispered to the old sheep who was watching. Kneel down, whispered the old sheep. Let the blood rush to your head. Wilbert sank to his knees, all radiance gone, his eyes closed. Look, screamed Fern, he's fading away. Hey, watch me, yelled Avery, climbing on all fours into the crate. I'm a pig, I'm a pig. Avery's foot touched Templeton under the straw. Oh, what a mess, thought the pig. What fantastic creatures boys are. Why did I let myself in for this? The geese saw Avery in the crate and cheered. Avery, you get out of that crate this instant, commanded his mother. What do you think you are? I'm a pig, cried Avery, tossing handfuls of straw into the air. Onk, onk, onk. The truck is rolling away, Papa, said Fern. The truck, with no one at the wheel, had started to roll downhill. Mr. Arble dashed to the driver's seat and pulled on the emergency brake. The truck stopped. The geese cheered. Charlotte crouched and made herself as small as possible in knothole so Avery wouldn't see her. Come out at once, cried Mrs. Arble. Avery crawled out of the crate on hands and knees, making faces at Wilbert. Wilbert fainted away. The pig has passed out, said Mrs. Zuckerman. Throw water on him. Throw buttermilk, suggested Avery. The geese cheered. Lovely ran for a pail of water. Fern climbed into the pen and knelt by Wilbert's side. It's a sunstroke, said Zuckerman. The heat is too much for him. Maybe he's dead, said Avery. Come out of that pig pen immediately, cried Mrs. Arble. Avery obeyed his mother and climbed into the back of the truck so he could see better. Lovely returned with cold water and dashed it onto Wilbert. Throw some on me, said Avery. I'm hot too. Oh, keep quiet, hollered Fern. Keep quiet. Her eyes were brimming with tears. Wilbert, feeling the cold water, came to. He rose slowly to his feet while the geese cheered. He's up, said Mr. Arble. I guess there's nothing wrong with him. I'm hungry, said Avery. I want a candied apple. Wilbert's all right, said Fern. We can start. I want to take a ride in a Ferris wheel. Mr. Zuckerman and Mr. Arble and Lovely grabbed the pig and rushed him headfirst towards the crate. Wilbert began to struggle. The harder the men pushed, the harder he pushed back. Avery jumped down and joined the men. Wilbert kicked and thrashed and grunted. Nothing's wrong with this pig, said Mr. Zuckerman cheerfully, pressing his knees against Wilbert's behind. All together now, boys. Shove. With a final heave, they jammed him into the crate. The geese cheered. Lovely nailed some boards across the end so Wilbert couldn't back out. Then, using all of their strength, the men picked up the crate and heaved it aboard the trunk. They did not know that under the straw was a rat, and inside a knothole was a big gray spider. They only saw a pig. Everybody in, called Mr. Arble. He started the motor. The ladies climbed in beside him. Mr. Zuckerman and Lovely and Fern and Avery rode in the back, hanging onto the sideboards. The truck began to move. The geese cheered. The children answered the cheer, and away everybody went to the fair. All right, I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to read another book because I think this is going to be fun to talk about, both of these stories. Okay, this one is called The Fox in the Dark. Okay, and it's just beautifully illustrated. So something this beautiful and well written, I like to share with all of you. Rabbit runs home. He darts left and right, scampering, scrambling back through the night. His ears flap, his tail bobs. It's going to be tight as he's chased by a fox through the dark. Bang goes his door, and clink snaps the latch. Thunk goes the key, and scritch strikes a match. And phew, Rabbit sighs. I've escaped, not a scratch, and I'm safe from that fox in the dark. But rat-a-tat-tat, now who can that be? Friend or fox, Rabbit cries. A voice quacks. Look and see. You'll never find anyone more scared than me of the teeth of a fox in the dark. Rabbit peers around the door. There's no fox, just a duck who says, quack, please let me in. I've had so much bad luck. My truck hit a ditch and got stuck in the muck, and I've just seen a fox in the dark. Rabbit grumbled a bit. It's not really his habit to share with a duck a bed made for a rabbit. The blanket's quite small, he says. Try not to grab it while we hide from the fox in the dark. I think there's the blanket. Wait. Tat tat, who's that at the door? It's me, squeaks a voice. Is there room for one more? I don't need much space, and my paws are so sore. I've just run from a fox in the dark. Oh, really, sighs Rabbit. The hour is so late, but the mouse just outside is in such a sad state. I'm so tired, he says, I could hibernate, thanks to that fox in the dark. And there's that little mouse, and there's the rabbit. Okay, and there they are, the duck and the rabbit inside. But they let him in. So they squish in together, and Duck says, quack, nice house. And thank you so much for your kindness, says Mouse. And sorry, says Rabbit, I ought not to grouse. I'm just mad at that fox in the dark. And there they are, all in bed together. But then, tat, who can that be now? If it's a horse or a pig or a cow, they can just stay outside. And Rabbit furrows his brow. I'll have words with that fox in the dark. Outside is a lamb who is shaking with fear. It looks so safe in here. Oh, that scary thing barked in my ear, and I'm sure it's a fox in the dark. And there's a little rabbit. And he's at the door. And there's Duck holding their blanket with Mouse. The bed is so full, it's starting to creak. Rabbit shoves Mouse, and Mouse gives a squeak. Then Lamb accidentally squishes Duck's beak. Oh, drat that old fox in the dark. Then there's a knock at the door. Oh, quack, I'll get it, says Duck as he bumps to the floor. Not that there's room here for anyone more, but outside is a fox in the dark. Don't eat us, cries Duck. At least please don't eat me. Rabbit and Lamb search for someplace to flee. Mouse flings up a paw and shouts, I need to wee. Then Duck says, he looks a bit small to me. And the fox starts to cry and says, yes, please, you see, I've lost my mom out in the dark. It's a little fox cub, and that's who it is. Oh, quack, that's just what I thought, says Duck. Oh, what a muddle. And Rabbit gives Fox Cub a very big cuddle. Then Lamb takes a cloth and cleans up Mouse's puddle. He gets scared by a fox in the dark. Then, Dad, who's that now? Rabbit sighs, and he opens the door, and Duck says, that was unwise. He's gonna open the door, and there's Duck looking out the window. And then there's a big hug for the little fox from Rabbit. Oh, and there's Lamb. He's cleaning up the puddle from the little mouse. Who's at the door though? Okay, let's see. For outside is a fox of a much bigger size, looming down at them from the dark. And it's so big. Oh, what's going to happen? This doesn't look good. But the fox cries, my baby, I've searched for you so. And you found him, Quack Duck. So off you both go. I don't like to rush you, but as you well know, a fox belongs out in the dark. We won't hurt you, says Fox. Oh, please let us stay. You've all been so kind. We'll keep out of your way. My baby's so tired. Our home's too far away for a fox cub to trot in the dark. And there's the mom with her little cub. And the duck is saying, you can go now. They are working on with the mom and the cub. But Rabbit cries out, there's no room in the bed. Where on earth will you sleep? Mommy Fox shakes her head. Who needs a small bed? There's a big fox instead. We can all snuggle up in the dark. So they each grab what pillows and rugs can be found. Fox lies out comfortably down on the ground. And they're all coming with things that they're bringing to lie down on. And there's even the baby fox helping bring the blanket. Then they yawn and they stretch and they all cuddle around with the fox that came in from the dark. Who would have thought that was going to happen? And there it is. That is the end of that story. Okay, you guys, I'm going to check our time. Oh, I can't. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. All right, where are we? I think it's time that we stop right